A dynasty on display. The Stanford Cardinal have been to 7 of the last 10 College Cups, winning their second national championship last year. They've won 25 straight, but Minnesota's Stephanie Golan asked her Golden Gophers to take the stairs against the reigning national champs. Yes, indeed. The Stanford Cardinal, your reigning national champions, are in Minnesota to take on the Big Ten's Minnesota Golden Gophers as we kick off our women's soccer coverage right here on BTN. Hello, everybody. I'm Dean Linke. Delighted to be with my former All-Big Ten star from Illinois, Jackie Manny. And, Jackie, you look at Stanford, 25 straight, outscoring the opposition 92-7.
And this is a team that just plays attractive possession-style soccer. They're so fun to watch. And the most exciting thing about this team is that they return a core of that national championship team.
Yeah, stars all over the field, but you're going to pick the midfield maestro.
I am. Jordan DiBiase. She's just so fun on the ball. She's always exciting when she has it, and she'll set play for this Stanford team. She's good on the dribble, and she'll thread balls in and create for her teammates as well.
The Minnesota mantra is take the stairs. They'll do it with their senior swag.
Bakken will run the show for Minnesota. Offensively, she's another player that's dangerous on the ball and will help set the pace when they have possession. Then Heslin will be on the other side. She's key for Minnesota on the defensive side of the ball. She'll organize with her team, which will be crucial against Stanford's attack.
The Golden Gophers up for the challenge against Paul Radcliffe's Stanford Cardinal. It's Stanford, it's Minnesota, the lineups and the kick when we return.
From the creators of Dr. Pepper comes the story of a town where every day is Saturday and everyone is a fan. And this fall comes the most dramatic season of their lives.
What is it?
New neighbor, Sheriff.
We're Batmans.
Everyone wants that trophy.
Are you kidding me?
Dr. Pepper, the official drink of Fansville, kicking off this fall.
Women's Soccer on BTN is brought to you by State Farm, here to help life go right. Let's take a quick look at the starting lineups. First, for the Stanford Cardinal, winners of 25 straight. Most of their team from last year's national championship run back out there, including Hyatt in the middle. And we look at the Minnesota starting 11. They've got a couple youngsters in there, one in the back and one up front with Megan Gray. But, of course, it's Fiedler and Heslin and Bakken with that veteran leadership. And here we go, the Stanford Cardinal in their white tops, white socks, and Minnesota in their home maroon. Delighted to be with you here on the Big Ten Network for Sunday Soccer in Minnesota. Right off the bat, Stephanie Golan telling us this week, so you don't play these games on paper, you roll the ball out there just the same, and they're going to try to, according to her, high press Stanford and see if they can possess the ball. Easier said than done, Jackie.
It will be. I think it'll be a little bit of a track meet here in the first few minutes, just so the players can kind of get settled in. But both these teams, like you said, they typically like to high press. They're in a matched 4-4-3, 4-3-3 right now. So it'll be interesting to see once teams calm down, who can kind of maintain possession in that midfield.
So-called against Minnesota. They'll stay with Stanford. Sam Hyatt drop it over to Girma, freshman from San Jose. And it's important to mention Girma because she is in there for the incredibly talented Tierna Davidson, who scored her first full U.S. national team goal in their 3-0 victory over Chile just a couple days ago. And how about that? Just think how good they'd be with Davidson, but they don't seem to even miss a beat. They're that deep.
No, Girma is doing a fantastic job stepping in, and those are some big shoes to fill because Davidson is just so calm and confident in that back line.
Sophia Smith with the first shot attempt, and that will find Maddie Nielsen, the sophomore, the new starter for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Comes into the game with a .96 goals against average and 16 saves on the season. Minnesota 3-2. They won their first 3 games, Jackie, feeling pretty good, but then they lost to a really good Washington State team. And in their last game, a game that Stephanie Golan felt like they should have won. They had an opportunity in the second minute. If they put it in the back of the net, it changes the dynamic of the game. They didn't, and they fall to DePaul. That's one that she wants back.
It is, and you're not ever looking for losses, but defeat is kind of part of the game, especially in non-conference games. You end up learning more from losing games than you do winning. So I think those games are important because you learn how to change your tactics. Your team has to learn how to figure out how to unlock different styles of play. So I think those games are just as important as the wins.
Pushing it forward for Stanford is Grubel. Grubel getting the start in front of Katarina Macario, who had 50 points last year, joining some elite company as a freshman. We do expect to see Macario, but she's been bothered by just a little injury and hasn't played a ton of minutes. She's still scoring goals, even though she doesn't play very often. She gets in there, and she's an instant goal scorer, but it's Grubel getting the start up top with Coleman and Smith. Both these teams play a 4-3-3. What does that mean as you break it down?
You know, there's going to be some battling in the midfield because they both like to sit one in front of their back four. So I think it'll be a competition to see who can establish that space and get one of those to sit a little bit deeper. But you also see a ton of moments and key opportunities in transition in this game. Stanford likes to possess the ball. You've seen them string a ton of passes together already. And Minnesota's going to have to be able to deal with that, be patient defensively, and then be quick to transition offensively and find their opportunities.
Stanford comes in having outscored their opposition 12-1 to start the season. 5-0 over UC Davis, 5-1 over San Fran, and 2-0 at BYU, a very good BYU team. Minnesota. I like this buildup right here for the Golden Gophers. This was exactly what Stephanie Golan was hoping for. The composure to try to keep possession, put passes together, stay compact, and we saw it right there.
And you'll see that out of Nikki Albrecht in that center back position for Minnesota. She is a converted central midfielder that's playing in that role, but you'll see her be comfortable on the ball. She'll try to slip passes into April Bakken like we just saw, and they should be able to kind of slow down, find composure, and string some passes together as well.
Far side. Push it all the way back. Allison Jahansus, 11 shutouts a year ago. Between the pipes for Paul Radcliffe. Paul Radcliffe, just amazing what he's done. Winningest coach, men or women. Stanford history. Program has been around for a long time. Won the title in 2011 and did it again last year with a 3-2 win over UCLA, Pac-12 rival, down in Orlando. 5 minutes in already, no score, but Stanford putting passes together, trying to find Coleman, knocked out of bounds.
And that's where you'll see DiBiase be so dangerous, is in that space right in between the mids and the back line. She'll find it at her feet. She turns, she faces, and she plays in those dangerous balls.
Quick shot inside the 18. Go off of Stanford. And we'll take a look here at Maddie Nielsen, the sophomore from Shoreline, Washington. See her career numbers, limited time last year, but it's her job now. And she's got 16 saves coming in. She had one as soon as the game started. A good position. She's going to have to make some big saves. You know, Stanford, with this heavy artillery, this offense that is just dynamic, I love how you gave the ultimate compliment. I mean, Paul Ratcliffe, he loves you, by the way, because you compared the way they played to Man City, which was fantastic. In many ways, the way they do possess the ball, it's pretty amazing.
They kind of lull you to sleep a little bit. They're so patient and calm when they have the ball. The teams are kind of suspect to just getting content sitting in that shape defensively, and then they're so fast to attack. And even their center backs and outside backs. You'll see Pickett get forward. You'll see McGrady be forward, doing some special things in the attack. They've just got so many offensive weapons.
Jahansus was started from the back. Paul Ratcliffe, the top man, as we said, more wins than any men's or women's soccer coach at Stanford. That 770 record, and I guess we got to believe him because he said that he had no idea prior to the BYU game that they had won 24 straight. I don't know. And they got 25. He just said it's about the moment every single time. And, boy, those moments have been pretty spectacular when you break down this team.
They really have. They're just such a consistent group, and I love their mentality of just going after each game one at a time, focusing on themselves. They're not focusing on the opponent. And I think that's a great mentality to have when you're that reigning national championship with that target on your back.
Well, and speaking of mentality, I think you have to applaud Stephanie Golan, right? You mentioned the take the stairs, and the whole thing is that, why take the elevator when you can take the stairs and work a little harder to get to it? She has always said, we're going to try to find tough teams to play. It doesn't get any tougher than this one. And she said it's important for the development of this team, including some of those youngsters.
Agreed. And sometimes you get caught giving too much respect to your opponents when they're that reigning national championship team. But I like their mentality. They're still getting up. They're pressing. They're being patient in their defense, but they're also pressing them a little bit higher up the field. And they're going for it. They're going to try and look at their transition moments and be aggressive in their defense.
Kind of a funny moment. Paul Ratcliffe, talking about bonding on his team, said that his team got stuck in an elevator instead of taking the stairs. And we had a little fun with that as well as part of their trip to Utah. They were in there quite some time, a handful of the team for Stanford stuck in the elevator, but everybody's safe. And
ultimate bonding experience.
There you go. I would struggle with that, I'm not going to lie. That's why I'm going to stay with the stairs.
Hopefully it was pre-training session, not post. We talked about Davidson's not being in that back line, but Alana Cook is just as composed, just as good on the ball as Davidson, and she'll set play for Stanford offensively. You'll see her on the ball a ton. She'll break through that forward line on a dribble penetration. She's very dangerous with the ball as her feet, as good as she is defensively and organizing.
Yeah, you look at the back line, and last year when you had Cook back there with Pickett and Davidson, 74 of 75 games together. And you asked Paul Ratcliffe about the adjustment without Davidson. What was his response?
He said it's been pretty fluid. The team has a ton of respect for what Davidson's goals are, which I really liked in terms of their mentality towards it. It can always be hard to integrate a player that's coming in and out, especially when she's such a key player for your team. But they have a ton of support. They want her to do well. They want her to go after her goals. So everybody's kind of pushing for her and are looking to help her do that however she can.
Stanford taking their time. Ironically, Davidson scored that goal the same game that Kristen Press, one of the all-time greats at Stanford, played in her 100th game, and Press also scored a goal. As you see Stanford's influence at the full national team. 4 of these players for Stanford were part of the U.S. under-20 team that just returned from the U20 World Cup.
Minnesota's doing a great job of staying patient defensively. They're letting Stanford kind of do their thing, but it's all in their back defensive third. They haven't been too dangerous yet out of this possession style.
Minnesota, good positioning. They win it. Try to get it down the right flank. You see the speed there of Girma.
And that's where those moments when the game starts to settle in, if Minnesota can realize that it's not on to go forward right away, to stay composed and keep that ball. Instead, they'll find a little bit more success, I think, in finding better opportunities to go forward.
Lana Cook. Interesting. Stanford seems content if Minnesota's not going to totally press that final third to just kick it around the back line. Girma. McGrady. Pressure for a moment on Jahan Seuss. There she is, Allison Jahan Seuss, redshirt senior, 19-2. Split sometime last year, but she still was able to get 11 solo shutouts to her credit. Once again, you'll see Cook, the senior from New Jersey. Yeah, you said it best. They only lost really 3 players from last year's national championship team. Of course, the biggest one, Andy Sullivan, who was the #1 pick in the NWSL draft. But you're talking about, for the most part, the entire team coming back except for Sullivan.
And they had to experience a little bit of adversity in the beginning of the season, just with their U20s being gone and then having to integrate them back in. But for the most part, this team has so much experience playing together.
What do you think of this? I'm trying to figure it out. They're just playing it back here, their defensive third. Now they finally go forward. But it's almost as if Stanford's content to chop at the clock a little bit and wait for Minnesota to try to come get it.
And that's part of their game. That's what they like. They're comfortable like that. But I think Minnesota, got to tip your hat to them, because they're doing a good job taking away passing channels. They're being patient defensively. It can be so hard to be patient when you're just feeling like you're doing nothing but kind of sitting. And I think they've done a great job. Here's where they need to be better, is when they win this ball, they have to slow it down. And this is one of the better sequences that they've had, is get it back to their keeper, find their offensive shape, and try to find something by knocking the ball around a little bit.
So there's a turnover. Stanford's ability to transition off a turnover is like a machine. Soda for a whistle instead of go out of bounds. It'll be a throw in for the Golden Gophers. 15 minutes in. If you're Stephanie Golan, based on the pace right now, how you feeling?
I think you're feeling good, especially for a Sunday game when you just need to kind of get your feet going, get your legs going in the beginning of the match. You know, you want a little bit of a slower pace typically, just so you can slowly get yourselves into the game. But they're doing a great job to sort Stanford in the center of the park right now.
Down the right side for Stanford. Turning on it is Grubel. Grubel getting the start in front of Vicario. Minnesota takes it away. Minnesota appears up for the challenge, taking on Stanford, winners of 25 straight. A whistle, and this is a good opportunity for the Golden Gophers. Let's see if they elect to bring players forward, try to get into the 18. They've got to be careful, right, because of the speed of Stanford on the counterattack. They might be conservative and leave their back line. Looks like they're gonna at the moment.
They might, but this is also where Stanford can get scored on. I don't remember the exact number of minutes that Stanford hasn't allowed a goal in the run of play. So to take advantage of a set piece and try to get your numbers and your best players in the box is going to be key.
Over the ball is April Bakken. She has been an assist machine during her time at Minnesota. Good ball served in front. Minnesota was there first. It'll go out of bounds off of Stanford.
This is a great service into the box. She's got a little bit of a spin going towards the goal, but Stanford does a good job defensively to clear that.
It's Nikki Albrecht, who was an outside back last year, now a center back. Albrecht does have 4 goals and 4 assists, and she was there first for Minnesota. Stanford, pretty hardy schedule. You've got Brigham Young, Minnesota, which is always amongst the best teams in the Big Ten. Then they've got Notre Dame and North Carolina coming out to the farm. That'll be a good one. North Carolina, I believe, number 3 in the country right now. Minnesota's midfield with Emily Heslin and Molly Fiedler. Played forward. Stanford dancing with it. Sophia Smith. Minnesota getting behind the ball, even in the 18.
You're doing a great job of staying numbers up around the ball. Whenever you see these little pockets right here, they've got 3 or 4 around the ball where it's typically the other way around. Stanford always has numbers up.
Athena Kuhn, sophomore from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Never played center back before, not even as a youth player, but she's the starting center back for Minnesota, Stephanie Golan. And here's a shot, and it finds the back of the net for Stanford. It fell to Gold, and Gold able to deliver a golden goal right there. It's 1-0 Stanford on top.
It's an unfortunate goal against for Minnesota. It's a great service in the box, but it's just a bad clearance here. But B.D. Goad takes a great touch to her left and just slides that into the right side netting. You see it again. Such a good first touch. She gets it outside of her body line and then gets a quick release on the ball for that goal.
Clinical finish from Gold, the Australian. Put it side netting, kept it on the ground. How many times have you heard coaches talk about striking a ball on the ground and the chances to score, and that's exactly what she did.
Keeping it low and going in the direction that the keeper is coming away from is what you typically hear from your coach.
Stanford on top, 1-0. That's your goal scorer right there. B.D. Gold, the junior from Melbourne, Australia.
She's similar to a DiBiase too, where there's so many offensive threats that sometimes she can kind of just slide under the radar, but she will attack out of that midfield spot. She gets forward. She likes to break through in that line, and she'll just catch defenses off guard.
First goal of the season for B.D. Gold. And make no mistake, one of the things that Stanford will do to you, when they score that first goal, obviously it changes the shape of the game. It'll open up a little more, and that's when Stanford really gets going. And they can hang 4, 5, or 6 goals on you. Whistle against Stanford. Come back to Minnesota.
Talked about that midfield shape kind of matching up against each other, and we've seen Stanford win out that territory a little bit. You just saw Molly Fiedler have to track all the way back into that space. Does a great job defensively, but Jordan DiBiase is going to have to draw that attention, and you'll have to focus on her defensively regardless of where you're at in the midfield.
1-0 Stanford here in the first. Minnesota actually probably had the better first opportunity on that free kick delivered in from Bakken as she was trying to connect with Albrecht.
They're doing a good job of winning balls and cutting off passing lanes. They just have to be a little bit more patient when they do win the ball and try to keep and string some more passes together. Turning the ball over a little bit too easily right now.
Kuhn. Gold. Gold stays with it. That's Emily Heslin. Hard to believe Heslin now a senior. She has been a rock at that number 6. Last couple years for Stephanie Golan. She really does, as you see right there, number 10 in the middle of the field. She epitomizes the spirit of this team, I think, the Minnesota Golden Gophers, which is, they've had some good success over the years. Last year, a tough year. They were right on that bubble on the outside looking in. But before that, Minnesota had put together 2 fantastic years, and Stephanie Golan now in her 7th season. She's one of the better coaches in the country.
She is, and like you just mentioned, Emily Heslin has just been key to that success. She in terms of a leader, she exemplifies everything you want in a leader for your team. She's always on point. Stephanie Golan talked about her training habits being so good, and she just does all the dirty work. You hear that phrase about somebody's got to carry the piano instead of play it. She is your piano carrier, and she loves that role, and she's been so successful for Minnesota.
Yeah, that 2016 season, they went 16-3-4, and they won the double. The regular season and the Big Ten tournament. They're putting passes together now. Beisman has come on. All 3 of their game-winning goals have come from freshmen. So you talk about loading for Stephanie Golan. She also took her team to the NCAA tournament in 2015. She's in the middle there. She's got a new coaching staff, which also will take some adjustment, right? Is Crystal Seidel finally taking a head coaching job at nearby McAllister. She was a great player for her senior campaign at Minnesota and stayed around. That corner kick will go all the way over. Becky Fletcher, her assistant coach. Molly Rouse, a former Golden Gopher. And then Allie Lipscher, pretty good goalkeeper from Duke, makes up her staff. So a brand new coaching staff, and that's going to take a little bit of time as well, right, to adjust to as they grow through the season.
Absolutely. And there's just a ton of turnover with this whole program right now, from coaching staff to players. Their whole back line is a little bit different. So it's been a struggle, I think, in this preseason, just to find a rhythm and find what works. But they've been happy, at least with the center-back relationship, which is a big one.
Stanford, a push in the back by Jordan DiBiase. Captain armband on DiBiase, the senior from Highlands Ranch, Colorado.
Heslin does a great job to keep herself in between DiBiase and the ball there and draw a foul under that high-pressing Stanford style.
Stanford's 25 wins dating back to August 25th, 2017, tying their longest win streak ever, which is 25. They did it in 2009 and then between 11 and 12. The longest unbeaten streak, because keep in mind, they don't have any ties. They're all wins as part of this 25 games. Minnesota, final pass into the 18, read by Stanford. They'll bring it back to the goalkeeper, but now Minnesota with the throw-in. Patricia Ward, she has one of those dramatic goals for Minnesota. Beatty Gold, the goal scorer, had it for a moment, taken away by Albrecht. Albrecht, an outside back last year who really was just focused on running up and down, didn't have all those responsibilities, but Stephanie Golan asking her to slide in the middle, help organizing the team, and she's been doing that.
She's been great in this game, too, in terms of finding those diagonal balls to release the Stanford pressure. She's been very good on the ball and very good with her distribution so far.
Minnesota's played some outstanding soccer over the years. Even before Stephanie Golan came there, they've not been shut out in 3 straight games since 2006. Of course, they're coming into this game having not scored in their last 2 games after winning their first 3. Referee letting them play on. A little push there from Girma, but referee didn't see anything. You see Minnesota averaging over 12 shots per game with this offense, but this Stanford defense so stingy. Of course, for the first time ever, Stanford won the men's and women's soccer national championships in the same year. That's never happened at any university for as long as NCAA men's and women's college cups have been going on. But Stanford they hold them both right now, down near the end line. Defense by Minnesota, then the shield and the goal kick. So both these teams making changes here, bringing in some new players. Ariano Del Moro, a sophomore from Minnesota. Stephanie Golan has really done a solid job of finding the best players in the state of Minnesota and keeping them at the only Division I soccer program in the state. Extra effort there from Stecker. Stecker, a freshman who has come in ready to play, ready to start, and it's exactly where she's been in the starting lineup from the start. Gold. Long ball from Cook. Cook, the senior.
Minnesota is doing such a good job at getting numbers back behind the ball that they are forcing Alana Cook to try and find some of those bigger balls in just to get their offense on the ball a little bit. We really haven't seen many possession threads with Stanford's attack on the ball.
Battle for that second ball, won here by Stanford. Taken away by Minnesota. Stanford again. Heslin will leave it for her center back, and Minnesota goes direct, but Too strong. Nice crowd here. Elizabeth Lyle Robbie Stadium stands full overflow behind the goal. Earlier there was buckets of rain that dropped. But now, nice day for, look at everybody behind the goal right there. Over 13 minutes remaining in the first.
Let's go, Geese! Let's go, Geese!
They've been following this women's soccer program for several years. They built this outstanding facility in the early 2000s, Elizabeth Lyle Robbie Stadium, and it's off campus a bit, but folks will make the drive to come out. It's a beautiful facility. Of course, they don't have a men's soccer program, so the women get all the love, and they've had some good teams over the years. Wonderful press box. Nice stadium. See the Big Ten championship banners behind the goal. Head coach Stephanie Golan played collegiately at Duke. Heslin. Right down the middle. Minnesota. Pass a little bit too strong there for Molly Fiedler.
Love that penetrating look by Heslin. That's something that we haven't typically seen in years past, that Coach Golan said she's doing more and more of. She's getting more comfortable with the ball and driving at her feet. And I think if she can break those lines, break that midfield pressure, and string a couple of passes together, Minnesota's going to find some better opportunities in front of the goal.
Stanford defeated Minnesota 4-1 in their only ever contest. This just the second time these two teams have faced each other. That was September 9, 2016. Jordan DiBiase and Andy Sullivan each scored twice for the Cardinal in that 4-1 win. Pressure there by Minnesota. 3 players collapsing there on Girma, and Minnesota has won it. Just as soon as they win it, they'll give it away as Del Moro will lose it in the midfield. Stecker, the freshman from Omaha, Nebraska, coming forward from that left back position to put pressure on.
Made it very hard for Stanford to play through here. She stays tight. She steps really well. She's doing a great job to shut down anything coming down the right flank on Stanford's side.
Captain Obvious, if you're Minnesota, like to keep it at either 1-0 or try to get the equalizer before the second half. One thing of note, Stanford, after Paul Ratcliffe makes adjustments, they've not allowed a goal in the second half of the season. Of course, they've only allowed 1 goal anyway. They don't allow very many goals, but over the years, their second half defensive discipline, their numbers are really remarkable.
Across the board, their stats right now are just incredible.
Paul Ratcliffe, his office is right next to Jeremy Guns, the head men's soccer coach for Stanford. Of course, the men in the last 2 NCAA championships, of course, they've won 3 in a row. They did not allow a goal in the NCAA tournament in back-to-back years.
It's just the whole university is pretty prestigious right now.
117 national championships overall. Leads all universities. And there's Paul Ratcliffe. He went to UCLA. Played under Ziggy Schmid. National championship there in 90. More subs coming in for Stanford.
And checking in for Stanford,
Sassy G. Sassy G, a junior from California.
Go, go, Birds! Come on, go, Birds!
Yeah, Jackie, I liked your comment earlier when we were watching Stanford with their patience in the back. I think your point of the fact that, you know, when you think about these Thursday, Sunday contests, it's a quick turnaround, right? And legs are a little heavy to start.
It is. There's a ton of fatigue. It's definitely a mental side of a Sunday game, is to get over that and be able to work your legs into a game. But this style where you are able to slow the game down, just kind of string a couple passes together, really suits you on a Sunday game day for sure.
Pressure there from Minnesota, and the crowd likes it. And it looks like Cook, let's see, the referee may give her a card.
Cook just takes a big touch here. Minnesota strips her, and it's a smart foul to grab that jersey subtly, at least, to be able to stop that attack. Because if she goes on, there's no back line to be able to stop her there.
Spoken like an awesome midfielder. Subtly was a yellow card right there, as that was a full jersey grab.
They caught her. But that's really, in that position, that's the best thing that you can do as a center back who just got stripped.
That'll go off of Stanford and Minnesota with a corner kick.
Again, this is where you can catch Stanford, so I think this has to be a focus for Minnesota's game plan, to be able to get players in the box and really try to take full advantage of these corner pieces, corners and set piece opportunities.
All right, so Minnesota, freshman Delaney Stecker, Stephanie Golan talking about her crafted left foot. She can hit a pretty good ball. Let's see if she'll go deep with it. She does, right down the middle. Will find Stanford first. Able to parry it away there. I believe it was Michelle Schau who was checked into the game for Coach Ratcliffe. JoJo Harbor had it for a moment, turned over. Minnesota.
And that's where they just keep missing out on opportunities. They're doing a great job at stepping into these passing channels, winning the ball, and then in these transition moments, they just have to be a little bit cleaner with their passes.
Yeah, I'm impressed with Minnesota right now. Yeah, they're down 1-0, but you're playing a team here that's not afraid to hang 5 or 6 on you, and Minnesota's had a couple opportunities to score in this one, and kind of a mistake in the back where Stanford was able to capitalize for the only goal. But it's not like they've been controlling every single second of possession at all. It's sort of in their back third, but Minnesota will take that.
Exactly, and they're forcing Alana Cook, who is typically super calm on the ball, to make some longer balls that have been turnovers. I think she has to have more support when she has the ball at her feet, but Minnesota is forcing her to find that longer diagonal ball or just longer ball into that target, and then they're doing a great job at getting numbers around it and winning first or second balls.
That'll go out of bounds back to Minnesota. You can subscribe to BTN Plus and gain access to great non-televised soccer matchups all season long. Then enjoy them wherever you are. Get BTN Plus now, available on BTN to go. 4 minutes and 25 seconds remaining here in the first. Stanford with the only goal of the game coming from number 16, Beatty Gold. Spelled G-O-A-D, the junior from Australia. Looking for the second one. Cleared out, that's Gold. will play it back. Stanford, good run. Defensive pressure there by Minnesota. Sam Hyatt. Hyatt, one of those players on the U20 team. It'll go out of bounds. Stanford has some experience of seeing their collegiate players get called up by the U.S. national team. Andy Sullivan was one of those players as well during her collegiate days, getting called up, so they know how to deal with it. Coach Ratcliffe talking about the fact that the team really gets behind her and supports her and pushes her to do well. She scores that goal against Chile. Well done.
Yeah, and when you have a program that's this successful, that kind of comes with the territory, unfortunately. But it's always so much better when you have a team that really supports what you're doing.
Gold. Great pass in, onside, but kind of stumbling just as she was getting ready to take the shot there was Ceci G.
That is great diagonal run from Ceci G into this pocket. You see BD go. She finds that little diagonal ball right into her feet. And Ceci G just gets caught up a little bit, had more time than I think she thought she did, and puts that ball over the goal.
Fourth shot on goal for Stanford.
Stanford's starting to find more of those up, back in, and out passing rhythms, which is kind of starting to unlock this Minnesota defense.
Stanford in and around the 18. Good little turn, shot from distance. Looked like Maddie Nielsen had it covered either way, but DiBiase finding some space.
It was one of the better sequences that Stanford had, but DiBiase taking it onto her shoulders and going at it by herself. She has all these Minnesota players around the ball, but still finds space and a quick release with the ball at her feet.
5 shots for Stanford, none for Minnesota. That set a little deceiving when you think about those free kick opportunities for Minnesota, the corner kick and the free kick. While they didn't get a shot on goal, they were dangerous. Albrecht almost get on the back end of the long free kick. 1 minute remaining. Stanford appearing very patient, very deliberate. It's not like they've been on all-out attack against this Minnesota team, and I think that's because of Minnesota's game plan as well.
They've been very good at sticking to the game plan that they've set out to do. They've taken away passes centrally, especially right here when we see Alana Cook on the ball. They've forced her back. They've forced her to make longer ball decisions, and they've made it pretty frustrating for Stanford's back line to really get anything going. They've done a great job so far this game. I think one thing that they missed out on is being able to find April Bakken in that first half. They really just couldn't get a ton of offense generated, but I think if they fix a couple things going into halftime, they'll be able to have a great second half.
Final seconds counting down here in front of a wonderful crowd at Elizabeth Lyle Robbie Stadium. Stanford, winners of 25 straight. They have a first half lead, 1-0. Gold, the goal scorer, number 16. I like the eyes there of Minnesota. They seem encouraged, as for the most part they've been able to go toe-to-toe with the reigning national champs. So nice to have them in Minnesota, as I believe we're joined now by their uber successful Head coach of the Stanford Cardinal, Paul Ratcliffe. He's won 2 national championships already for Stanford, and Paul is with us now. Paul, great to be with you. Your thoughts on the first 45, Coach?
Yeah, we've been a little bit slow. I think we need to break lines and move up the field faster. And so, you know, not great, but we can get better.
You guys had a ton of the ball. How do you guys create more chances offensively?
Just getting higher up the field and breaking the lines. I think our defenders need to be more aggressive. We need to get higher up the field and find the width on the attack and try to get behind Minnesota. Minnesota's done a good job.
Finally, Coach, so many storylines with your team, 25 in a row, but another one. You've got to be so proud of Tierna Davidson scoring her first international goal for the USA. What's that mean to you in the program?
Wow, it's fantastic. So happy for Tierna. Great to see one of our players on the big stage and being very successful.
Coach, thanks for being with us. Good luck the rest of the way.
All right, thanks, you guys.
All right, Paul Ratcliffe, the head coach of the reigning champion, #1 team in the nation, Stanford Cardinal. Minnesota has shown some fight, but Stanford able to sneak one by. It's 1-0 through 45 in Minnesota. Stanford on top of the Golden Gophers.